What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the opinionated hippie, and today I'm gonna just be discussing Bob Dylan's most recent release as of what is today, August 24th, 2023, Shadow Kingdom. Elsewhere on this channel, like a year, maybe 2 years, maybe a year prior to the release of this album, I had already reviewed and ranked all of Bob Dylan's albums. I did all the studio ones. I did a separate live video of just the live albums. And so this one came out after I'd already done that. And I tiered them like C tier, B tier, A tier, S tier, as far as the studio albums go. I don't think I did that with the live stuff. I might have just ranked them. But I really wasn't going to do anything about this, mainly because one, it's a soundtrack album. And so I've always just kind of put soundtrack albums in this different category. It's also live. And it was also a soundtrack of a live performance on a sound stage, like done for a movie during COVID, and it's no original stuff. I mean, I guess there's one original instrumental on here. Not original, but new. Everything else is covers from mostly Bob Dylan song covers, not other people covers. But they're mostly just Bob Dylan doing like his old 60s, maybe early 70s repertoire. One more recent stuff off Oh Mercy. But there's just something about it that I don't know. I didn't feel like I was going to review it. And then I listened to it and I was like, I'm going to wait because maybe what I have to say after a couple months will change after I listen to it more. And so I waited, and now it's about 2.5, close to 3 months later. And I'm like, I'm going to review this album because everybody who is a Bob Dylan fan and everybody who is not a Bob Dylan fan needs to check out this album. Like what Bob Dylan has done on this album is just, it's Bob Dylan being Bob Dylan, unpredictably great. And all of a sudden, like what? We're 50 plus years, 60 years almost, right? Into 60 years almost, right? Yeah. I'm trying to do the math. Yeah. 60 years, more than 60 years, into his career, and he's dropping this. Like this has all the urgency and vibrancy and energy and enthusiasm and originality and reinvention of anything he's ever done in his entire career. It is just an absolutely phenomenal performance. It is the soundtrack to a movie that I have not seen. And apparently it was COVID, so Dylan decided to record on a sound stage, like in an actual, not just go in like a record him and get him right, but like a live concert, one kind of session type thing. They recorded it. I understand the movie doesn't actually show who the musicians are, I don't think. If you've seen the movie and you'd like to comment below and explain what it is, I know I can look it up, but I've looked it up and it doesn't really give specifics on anything I've seen. Didn't spend much time on it. But if you know more about it, and I would like to see it. But it's mostly, it's acoustic. There's no drums. There's like an accordion a lot of the time. You got some pedal steel in there. You got some mandolin in there, some upright bass, some electric bass. You do got a little bit of electricity in there. But mostly, I think it's mostly an acoustic vibe for the most part, and very much in the vein of like, definitely his most recent album before this. What is that? Rough and Rowdy Ways. And also very much steeped in that 20th century Americana that he's been playing, but that really eclectic, healthy mix of it where you're not going to actually pinpoint, oh, he sounds like this artist from the 50s or this artist from the 40s or like this artist from the 60s, but it's just like pieces of all those things and like this Bob Dylan sort of mix. Some songs sort of dip into a maybe more traditional blues styling, but other than that, they're just kind of these really vibrant, alive reworkings of classics, deep cuts, a recent track that's recent 89, late 80s. But it's absolutely amazing. 14 tracks on here. And one of the neat things about it is it's definitely like a live session. and like he'll end a song, and then everybody, like the guitar players mostly, will just be like da-da, playing like these chords, da-da, da-da, like filling up space, something like a My Morning Jacket would do between songs, or like Mo sometimes does between songs. They're not really jamming an actual melody, but they're like, strumming and doing things and kind of filling in that space. And then Dylan will like eventually start playing and lead us into the next song. So there's an absolutely fantastic live vibe about every performance. The performances are loose. There's a lot of like, kind of space in the intro before we get to the lyrics. As is typical with Dylan, of the 13 songs, the 14th one is Sierra's theme. It's a instrumental. It closes it out. I would say roughly half of them, the melody of the song is like, oh yeah, that's the melody I know. But then the changes, or musically, we're either bringing it down or bringing it up, or in the case of Tombstone Blues, we're almost like dropping music altogether and almost making it like this just like weird guy in this microphone late at night saying things. And so you recognize the melody, but then there's a number of songs you were just like, oh, glad I was paying attention to the lyrics, because I wasn't really sure what that song was musically. And even once he starts singing the lyrics, you're like, wait, what is this? Yeah, it's great. It's awesome. It's a blast. It is just such a surprising listen. And one of the reasons I waited a couple months to review it was because I thought over time, maybe it would lose its luster. Maybe I would, wasn't as good as I thought it was. And after a couple listens, it would be all, all shine and no substance, all flash, but no, I don't know. But it's not. I keep listening to it and I keep loving it. And I also keep finding deeper appreciation for some of the musical choices or some of the delivery. What we get on here, I think there's a vinyl edition. I have the CD version. Opens up with When I Paint My Masterpiece, which again, a little more musical. There's a lot more to it going on musically. He's got the Crimson and Clover bridge in the middle. One of several bridges he had dropped in the middle of that over time. It's not Crimson and Clover. I'm thinking of that other song. But it's he's got the bridge in it. So the lyrics were given a nice, good, healthy reading of the lyrics. But the melody is still pretty much there. Like you recognize it as When I Paint My Masterpiece. The next song, Most Likely You'll Go Your Way, I'll Go Mine. Really this just really kind of really tense, hyper upbeat sort of version of the music. But then the lyrics, it feels like this is Most Likely You Go Your Way, I'll Go Mine. Like we're in it, right? Queen Jane Approximately, beautiful reading of that. Seems pretty true to like the essence of the original Queen Jane. But then we get I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, and it's like, okay, now we're playing the Dylan game. Yeah, completely reinventing things right here. We're taking apart the melody and just kind of doing things to it. So we're really getting like inventive and having a good time, and the energy is just fun, and none of it seems like a chore. And anytime he does get really weird or sort of attempts to like deconstruct a song, yeah, you're with him, because he's also previously just given you something you love and maybe a slightly different like sauce on it, but you love the heart of it. And so he does a good job of mixing it up. Just like Tom Thumb's Blues makes it so breezy and so just this completely different vibe. I still think, and I hate to say this, because I absolutely love the song, but I actually think Phil Lesh's readings of this are some of my favorite versions of Just Like Tom Thumb Blues. And listening to this, there was a couple times I was like, oh, I kind of wish Phil Lesh was singing this, because he has a way of hitting those lines. But it's a really good version. Tombstone Blues, which is just like, Dylan is really just like focusing on the lyrics, just giving you like a really, really intense, bare bones version of this. To Be Alone With You, the most recent song off Oh Mercy, What Was It You Wanted, which sounds like sort of maybe kind of like a studio version if he had done it maybe 20, 25 years later. But really a very good, solid, sincere performance of that. Probably the only track I don't like on here, Forever Young. Not really a fan of that song. Really the only time I do like it is on Planet Waves, just because you got the two different versions. But it's a song that's been covered by way too many people, way too many times. And I understand why people are attracted to the sentiment, But as a song, it's probably one of my least favorite of his sort of iconic songs. Pledging My Time, which gets it's like the very bluesy Pledging My Time. The Wicked Messenger, Watching the River Flow, which also feels like maybe this river's a little bit longer and flowing, maybe not quite as hectically as it once used to, but it's still flowing proudly. And then an awesome, pretty much the last official sort of song with vocals, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, which is just, yeah, man, that's one of his best all-time songs. What an absolute classic. But yeah, really, it's just, other than the Forever Young, which is, I know it's something a lot of people like that I don't. Like, I have no complaints about the track list, no complaints about the performances. It is just Dylan enjoying his music in just such a fresh, incredibly imaginative, still after all these decades, way. I've seen him, he comes through San Antonio all the time. In fact, recently, I think on his last tour, the only place he had 2 dates in a city was here in San Antonio. So he's always coming through San Antonio. It seems like I see him every year. I know it hasn't been that often. But there are many shows where, like, I cannot recognize what the song is until he actually starts singing the lyrics. And then depending on how well he's singing the lyrics at night, sometimes I even have to wait to the chorus because he's so reimagined songs. There's a couple of those moments on here where you're just like, yeah, this is how you like repurpose a song, but somehow maintain just the integrity and quality of that song. And he kind of puts those all in the middle of the show, which I think is much to his like understanding of a track listing and a set listing and how to pace something. If I have a complaint other than Forever Young, which is really minor, I think one of my favorite things on Dylan live albums and seeing Dylan throughout all the decades is how he reinvents Maggies Farm every time. Because Maggies Farm, while it seems like the actual Maggie's Farm part of it, like especially the I Ain't Gonna Live On, just like he might tweak what happens after that, but usually when he comes in on that I ain't gonna live on Maggie's farm no more, like that part stays true, right? And then he tweaks the music and he has fun with it. I kind of wish there was a Maggie's Farm on this, because the tweakings of these songs and the reimaginings of these songs are so top notch that's one of those I'm like, all right, you've been like tweaking that song for decades, Dylan. Like it's almost on every live album he's done, a new, fresh, awesome version of that. I kind of wish it was on here, but I respect him for not doing it. But it is the one thing I'm like, yeah, I know you've released it a bunch of live times, but all of those are worth it. So do it again. But he didn't. But yeah, get this album, man. This is such a good listen. It's live Dylan. It sounds great. The performances are fantastic. The track list is fantastic. I don't think you can go wrong with this, man. Get it, enjoy it, love it. Shadow Kingdom. Highly recommend it. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. If you check it out, if you know this, if you want to share your thoughts on it, please do. Tell me why I should like Forever Young. Trying to come around on that song. Give it a chance every time it comes on. Just doesn't do it for me. But anyways, tell me what your favorite song is, all that stuff. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it. Subscribe, like, share, and go listen to this. Go listen to Bob Dylan, people. Appreciate what we got while we still got him. He's coming back to tour. He just announced October tour dates. So super excited. Like, this is one of those artists, like, I've seen him enough times to like satisfy my sort of ledger on Bob Dylan experiences, but one day he's not going to be touring, and I'm going to make sure I see him when I do. So maybe after that October show, I'll give you a report on that. But anyways, that's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.